Hello, hello, beautiful. Welcome to another Thursday Talk with me, Suzanna Kaye. Welcome. So glad that you're joining me for these Thursday Talks. Today we are talking about where to store things and how to decide what the best place is for all of these things that we're trying to decide as we organize. So I'm going to share some of the questions and thoughts that you should consider as you're trying to decide where to store things as you're organizing. This is part of the Organizing and Decisions series. This is the section called Where to Store Things, and it's part 3 of 5. So there are 2 more parts where we're talking about how to decide the best places to store things around your home. So hopefully you enjoy the series so far. I see Eloise is already here. Hi, Eloise. She says, I hope that everyone is having a fantastic day. I hope you are too, Eloise. So good to see you today. Welcome, welcome. All right, so before we get started, I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that in July, from July 25th through 31st, we have the Emergency Medical Folder Challenge. So this is the challenge. It's free, where we will be building our emergency medical folders together. So all that important information that you need to grab in case you have to go to the hospital or in case of an emergency, we're going to get it all organized together. So put that on your calendar. Keep an eye out for when registration opens. And also, if you ever want to get on our text message list to get reminders for when we're going live and when there's special events, make sure to text the phrase loop, LOOP, like get in the loop, to the phone number 407-214-4420. And that way you can get reminder text messages whenever we're going to go live or have special events. All right. So like I mentioned, we're talking about where to store things and how to decide the best place to store things as you're organizing. I want to say hi really quickly. Hi, Wendy from Oregon. She's here. You're so welcome, Eloise, and Cheryl's here. Jane is joining us. Beth and Susan and Paula. Welcome, welcome. I love seeing all of you in the chat. Thank you. Okay, so some of the questions to ask when you're trying to decide where to store items as you're organizing. One of my favorite questions is, where do you use it? So what area of the house do you use that item the most often? And sometimes it might not be a traditional area that you would think of. So an example, for me, we have those nail trimmers for our cat because he gets his claws stuck in our bedspread. So the place that I use the nail trimmers most often is not with the other pet stuff, even though it would make sense to keep it with pet things. I use it in the bedroom. So I actually keep it in my nightstand. So when I was trying to decide where to store the cat nail trimmers, I was thinking, okay, well, the place that I use it the most often is when I start to notice that his nails are getting stuck in our bedspread. Then I just quickly trim his nails and I'm in the bedroom when that happens. And usually I'm at the bedside. So in the nightstand made the most sense. So where do you use it? What area of the house do you use it in the most often? I mean, there are times where you're going to use it other places. That's okay. Where do you use it the most often? Where does it need to be more convenient? If the cat nail trimmers all the way with the pet stuff near the kitchen, then I would probably put off trimming his nails as often and he would probably be miserable because his nails would keep getting stuck. So where do you use it is a really good one. Before we go on to the next one, really quickly, Nancy. Hi, Nancy and Veronica. Mary's here and BT. Karen's here. She says, sorry, I'm late. Not a problem, Karen. And Cindy says, hi from Massachusetts. Hello, beautiful. So good to see you all. All right, so we talked about where do you use it? Next, I also like to think, is it heavy or is it awkward to lift? So if it's really heavy or if it's awkward to lift up, something like my KitchenAid mixer. I don't know about you, but if you have a KitchenAid mixer or if you've ever dealt with one, these things are a beast. I think that they made them out of some kind of alien space technology that makes them ridiculously heavy. So a KitchenAid mixer is one of those items where I would think, is it heavy or awkward to lift? For me, it would be most convenient to keep it along with our juicer in the laundry room, which is on a higher up shelf because I don't use it very often. But that is way too heavy to be lifting up over my head. It just would not be very safe and it would be much more difficult. And it's kind of awkward. You know, when you try to lift it, if the latch comes undone, then it moves around and you could drop it easily. So if it's heavy or awkward to lift, then that is going to tell you probably should not put it high up, and sometimes not even too low. If you have a problem bending over and lifting things up, then you might not want it to be in the very back floor of your pantry. If it's too awkward to be able to lift up or lift down, then try to keep things, the same height as your arms, at arm's height, if it's really heavy or awkward. Sometimes if you don't have problems lifting things off the floor, then the floor area is perfect. For me, I don't have problems lifting things up. So my KitchenAid mixer sits in the very bottom cabinet, in the very back of the bottom cabinet, because I can pull it out and lift it up. I just can't lift it down as safely. And we don't have the counter space to keep it out on the counter. It's one of those things where if I used it often enough, it would just be on the counter. So is it heavy or awkward to lift? And really quickly before we go on to the next one, remember that this is also available as a podcast. So if you are ever not able to watch the video, of course, I want you to join me live. I'd love seeing you live. But if you're not able to watch the video and you want to take me on the road with you, then check out the podcast, suzannakaye.live/podcast, and you can listen on the run. And also, if you're enjoying this series and these tips, then click the heart, comment, tell me that you're enjoying it. That always helps me know. And quickly, Peg. Hi, Peg. Good morning. Glad to have you here. Lori says, oh, yay. Lori says, hello from Cleveland, Ohio. Is my name showing? It is. Yes, when you join through YouTube, then it'll show the name that you set up in YouTube. So that works out really well, Lori. Hi, Rita. Glad to have you here. And Rita also answered Lori's question. Yes, it is. Yay. Thank you, Rita. I love it when you guys chat with each other in the comments too. That makes me happy. All right. So we've talked about where do you use it the most, right? We talked about, is it heavy or awkward to lift? Next question of the 4 questions we're talking about today is, do you have and need more than one? I say and need because sometimes we have more than one, but we really only need one of that item. Do you have and actually need to have more than one of those items? When you have more than one, the key here is to be intentional about all of the different areas that you're going to keep it. So it's not just letting them gather in one place or spread out wherever they happen to land. Intentionally choosing which places to keep them is going to be important. Otherwise, it makes it very hard to find what you need. So an example here is scissors. I know most of us, if not all of us, have more than one pair of scissors in our home, and we need more than one pair, right? So intentionally choosing which locations to keep the scissors means that those scissors won't wander off and end up somewhere else. If you don't have specific places that you've decided to keep a pair of scissors, then it's very easy for those scissors to, wherever they're used, stay there because they don't have a home. But when mentally you've decided, for us in our house, some of our homes for scissors are, we have one in the kitchen. We have one pair in the craft area, actually 2 pairs in the craft area intentionally. We have one in the bathroom because we use scissors in the bathroom all the time. So whenever we have scissors, I know I use the scissors and they go right back to that place where they belong, whether it's the kitchen, the bathroom, the craft area. If I did not have those intentional places, I'd probably use the scissors and then tuck them next to wherever I just used them, which means when I go to find scissors, it's going to be very hard because they just wander around the house. So if you have and actually need more than one set or pair of whatever it is, make sure to be intentional about where each of those pairs lives. And there have actually been times where when my family was getting used to where everything was going, I took painter's tape and I marked what room those scissors went to. So that way we knew if you found a floating pair of scissors, you could see which room it belongs in so you could get it right back. So I just wrapped it around the handle and wrote something like kitchen, and then we knew those were the ones that went back to the kitchen. And then once everybody got used to where they went, then I could take the painter's tape off. So hopefully that helps you. Really quickly. Yep. Lori says that she's glad her name's showing up. I'm glad too. Jessica. Oh, yay. Jessica says, I'm enjoying your content. Thank you, Jessica. I'm so glad to have you here from LinkedIn. Love it. Sheila's here. Hello, Sheila. Great to have you. All right. So here's the final question that I ask when I'm trying to decide where to put things. Now, Tomorrow or next week and the week after, I will be talking about 2 more concepts that have to do with where to store things. We'll be talking about zones and organizing property law. So check those out. There are more considerations when deciding where to store things, but these are the main questions. So the final one is, do you have other things in the same category? So an example would be tape. If you're trying to decide where to store a roll of tape, do you have other types of tape in the house? And storing like things together, that falls into zones. We'll go really more deeply into zones in one of the next 2 weeks, Thursday talks. But a lot of times, if you have other things that are in the same category or that same thought process, such as adhesives, maybe glues would make sense along with the tapes, trying to store things with like items is really helpful. So an example with tape, if you're trying to decide where to put your masking tape, well, maybe you could put all the tapes together. So you could put it with your packing tape and duct tape and scotch tape. So all the tapes are together. So if you have other things that are in the same category, it could go with that category. Another example, you probably already do this in your kitchen utensils, right? A lot of us have a jar on the counter or a drawer for kitchen utensils. And it's all of those ones that we use to like cook and serve. And they're just kind of those big utensils. That's one category. So we kind of naturally have grown up learning kitchen utensils. You just group them all in the same category. So that's what I'm talking about there. Do you have other things in the same category? All right. So I'll do a quick recap of the questions for today. All right. And then while I do this recap, tell me one small step will you take today? What one small step have you been inspired to do or change in your home as a result of today? So really quickly, here's the recap. We talked about where to store things and how to decide the best place. These are the questions to ask. Where do you use it? What room or what area of the room do you use it in the most? And you want to probably keep it there. Is it heavy or awkward to lift? If it's heavy or awkward, then you probably don't want it to be stored high up because that could be dangerous. Lower down, if you're able to lift from the floor, then that's great for some of those heavy and awkward items. Otherwise, keep it, arm's height. We talked about, do you have and need more than one? We talked about scissors. Sometimes we have, and we actually need more than one set of whatever it is. Be intentional about which areas you're going to use to store these things. So that way they have a specific home. And then finally, do you have other things in the same category? So if it's something where there's a category of things, home repair items, kitchen utensils, tapes, storing that item near other things that kind of have that same thought process or that your mind would think of as the same category, that's really helpful. So tell me in the comments, what one small step will you take today? Really quickly, in the comments, I see Peg says, can my friends who aren't in a Suzanna Kaye group participate in the Emergency Medical Folder Challenge? I'd like to share it with them. Absolutely, Peg. Yes, they can. The Emergency Medical Folder Challenge will be both in the Facebook group as well as through email. So once registration opens, please share that registration page with anybody and they can register. They don't have to join the Facebook group or have any of the products or anything. So I love having new people join us, especially if they're your friends. They're probably like-minded, and I'm sure that we're just going to love them. So yes, thank you. Hey, Rosila, great to see you joining us. Nancy says, every once in a while we do a scavenger hunt for all the pens. She emphasized that. We collect them up and try them all and see which ones can be thrown away. It may be time to do it again. Yes, pens are definitely one of those things where they tend to wander around the house and accumulate in different areas. If you don't have a very specific, this is the various areas that pens go. And around our house, we usually have more than one pen in each area, but I have a little pen cup that's near where we sit and watch TV. There's a pen cup in the craft area. There's a pen cup in the kitchen. We have very specific areas that the pens go, so that way they don't wander. But yes, gathering them up and testing them out is a really good thing. Eileen says that her small step that she's going to take is finding a specific place for each pair of scissors. Fantastic. You're going to really love that you won't spend so much time looking for scissors once they have intentional places. Lori says, I'll gather papers for different projects and separate them into different folders or envelopes. That's her small step for today. That's lovely. I love it. Cindy says, one small step, either remove some random papers from a pile on the floor and or put some clothes away. Those are really good ones. Love it. Lori says, I hate it when scissors and tape dispensers wander off all by themselves, especially when they were in my craft area. Yep, having several papers in designated areas works in my house and labels on each. Yes, absolutely. Having labels on them really does help see where they landed and get them back to their home. I love it. Karen says, in my bookcase, I have a mug that holds bookmarks. Oh, that's such a cute idea. I love that. Especially because a lot of times we have memorabilia mugs that we don't necessarily want to use, but we like to look at. What a good idea. And Jane says, to see if I have better places for my kitchen appliances. Oh, yes. Oh, they can take up so much space. When you need them, we need them. But if you're not using them all the time, then they can absolutely take up space. That's a good one. Fantastic. And we said, oh, Peg says, Nancy, you reminded me to check on the black and blue ink pens. They seem to migrate from the office to the dining room. Yay, Nancy, you gave her a great idea. I love that. All right. Well, that was our recap. Just a reminder, July 25th through 31st, that's the free emergency medical folder challenge. So mark your calendars. And once the registration page goes up, you'll find out about it here as well as through email. So register, share it with a friend. Also, if you already own the Spark Life Binder, whether you own the paper version or the digital version, July 5th through 10th, we have a pre-sale if you wanted to add on the other version. So just for existing Spark Life Binder owners, July 5th through 10th, you will get a chance to purchase either the digital or paper if you wanted to add that on for your Spark Life Binder use. And then with the emergency medical folder challenge, during that end of that challenge, we will open up sales for the Spark Life Binder as well. So if you don't have a Spark Life Binder yet, which is a binder, you can see it right there behind me. It's a binder, which is one place where you can put all of your most important information and your documents and everything for your life, all documented. Then that'll be your great chance to grab one because it only happens twice a year that you can get one. All right, and really quickly, BT says, I keep pens, scissors, and a magnifying glass in each room. Really good. You never know. Each room I have a pair of scissors and a pen at least, definitely. And then Laurie says, great idea, a mug for bookmarks. Yes, that is a good idea. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Remember, if you're a member of the Path, a Pathfinder, then at noon, we will be talking a little bit more about the questions to ask and deciding where to store things. Check out next week also and the week after for the final 2 parts of this Where to Store Things series. We'll be talking about zones and we'll be talking about organizing property law. I can't wait to have you join me for that. And thank you so much. I love you. Keep being amazing and keep taking those small steps. You've got this, beautiful. Bye-bye now.